The chairman of the Tripartite Committee on National Minimum Wage, Goni, has called on organized labor to reassess its demands in light of economic realities and the non-monetary benefits provided by the federal government. Goni highlighted the recent salary increases of 25% and 35% for all consolidated salary structures for federal workers, as well as the substantial 90% subsidy on health costs for federal civil servants enrolled in the health insurance program as part of government's commitment to improved welfare for workers. Aji pointed out that the committee is mindful of the economic environment, noting that major and small businesses are closing down, leading to significant job losses. He stressed that the new minimum wage should not worsen the situation by triggering further unemployment. Organized labor is currently demanding a minimum wage of 250,000 naira per month, while the federal government and the organized private sector have encountered with an offer have countered with an offer of 62,000 naira per month. Meanwhile, a former governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, believes states should determine the minimum wage they can pay. Now, joining us on the news is a public affairs analyst, Dr. Ambose Igboke. Hello, doctor. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Morning. Thank you for having me on the show.
Good morning. All right. So what are your thoughts on the Tripartite Committee Chairman, Goni's appeal to organized labor to reconsider their demands in light of economic realities, which is affecting everyone?
I don't agree with him. His appeal is not holistic. His appeal is not towards those who should cut down their expenses and expenditure of public funds. His appeal should be targeted to the executive arm of government at the federal level and the state levels. His appeal should be targeted to the legislators. His appeal should be targeted at government appointees who flout luxury. You are asking the labor that it is not real, but we are in fact, the world is laughing at us for constructing a brand new president's residence for a lot of billions of naira, and then the world is also laughing at our profligacy in we just spent consumption. The government is built another presidential residence. Meanwhile, who will live in the other one? And we are talking about renovation. When you check the budget, 2024 budget, you see all kinds of, inanities there. You see, billions being consumed for feeding of dogs, billions for newspapers, all kinds of allowances, all in the budget. And the labor people are seeing it. And the people who prepared those budgets and did those things are civil servants. They are seeing the kind of stupendous amount of money that is being spent by political office holders. Yet to tell them who are the real workers of Nigeria, because these political office holders just come and go, and some of them stay 4 years, some of them stay 8 years, and then they go. But these people has put their all the life in the service of the country. Some have served up to 30 years, some in 20-something years, some 10 years, and you're telling them to go home with peanuts. When you check what was the minimum wage of 30,000 naira and what we have now, it's 100% increase. What is 60,000 naira? But we can find out that inflation has moved to more than 300%. 300% inflation rate. So the chairman of the Tripartite Committee is taking sides and should not do that. What you should do is try to lobby all sides and try to make sure that they come to an agreement. But him saying this is taking sides, so it's not a good umpire.
All right, doctor, you talked about, the high inflation rate, of over 300%. Now, considering, the inflation and the economic environment and also the closure of major and small businesses, how realistic would you say is the organized labor's demand for a 250,000 naira minimum wage?
In fact, I was being fair by saying by 300%. Some goods, some services or products have moved over to 1,000% inflation rate. So for labor, I think their cost is genuine. The government, on the other hand, is saying that, okay, look at what happened in the last event. We are putting 9 billion naira for students' loan scheme, and then you are using 90 billion for pilgrimage that is not having any effect on governance. And so when the organized labor see the way money is being spent on things that are not relevant, they have a right to ask, to demand for 250,000 naira. Even beyond that, I think labor should go beyond just the monetary value. They should also demand adequate, structures. For example, for housing fund, the NHF, how is it being run? What of the NHIS, the insurance, how is it being run? How about, the bursaries and, this loan that will help them, just their children pay their school fees? How is it going to be organized? So these are other, even apart from the take-home of minimum wage, there are other working conditions that the labor has to start, talking about. But 60,000 naira is not true. I mean, it's too small for what we are witnessing in the country. But again, some analysts have argued that when you pump money, there will be into the workers and increase their salary, it will also increase inflation.
Yeah, that was actually what I was about to ask you, about the possible, economic repercussions if the federal government agrees to the 250,000 naira minimum wage.
Well, what are the possible repercussions of the profligacy of the elected officials or government appointees? So what we can do is for government to take steps in the right direction, for government to show action, for government to be committed to these things they're talking about by reducing their own spendings, by cutting down their own allowances. Oftentimes, government will say, government officials will say, we have cut down our salary. The expenditure that goes into salary is not government appointees. Their salary is not what we're talking about. It is the allowance. The allowances are so humongous that it drains the national treasury. So when we are talking about cut down on the allowances, even for the senators, House of Rep, check out the allowances in a month. Check out the allowances of government appointees and elected or public officials. You'll find out that it is way too much. So if it has not impacted negatively on the economy, or if we are managing the negative impact, then the workers should also, be thrown in the mix. Let all of us manage it. Or alternatively, if the government wants to be serious, let them then cut down on their own salaries and allowances.
Therefore, but will that, be fair, considering that the former governor of Kayode of Ekiti State, yes, the former governor of Ekiti State, Kayode Fayemi, suggested that states should determine the minimum wage that they can pay. We have the governors already saying they can't pay anything, more than 60,000 naira. And they even complaining, that 60,000 naira is too much, complaining about, it draining the FAC allocation and them not having enough to be able to, for development projects.
I think it's a fact lie for any governor to say cannot pay a 60,000 naira minimum wage. It is not true. The governors, apart from the FAC allocation, have what we call internally generated revenue, IGRs, all over the state. So unless it's a governor that does not even understand the dynamics of governance, that is just, I don't think any governor is entirely dependent on FAC allocation. No. So there are lots of, inherent, especially with some of movement of some of the items on the exclusive list to concurrent list and the state of electricity, railway and a lot of things. I mean, it's not even their money they used to do some of these things. Open up your territory to be friendly to foreign investors and investors. The private sector will do the rest. And the private sector doing that will even pay taxes and have more money. So it is not true. Unless the governor who is not ready for the job of governance that can make that excuse. For any governor who is ready for the job of governance, he should be ready to pay that tax because every state has a financial capacity to pay. So it is just a political gimmick that they are employing. While you are living fat, you are telling the workers to manage. While you are not managing. It is not fair. And everybody who comes to equity must come with clean hands.
All right. Now, Doctor, while you were speaking earlier, you talked about, the government looking into, other allowances like housing fund, health insurance and everything, which the government is actually saying that it's already available for civil servants. Now, I want you to stress more on what you think, you know, that these non-monetary benefits, you know, like the health insurance and, you know, subsidies and everything play in the overall compensation and satisfaction of federal workers? And how do you think that, you know, in light of this, how do you think that it might influence labor negotiations?
You know, we have two sides of the coin. We have a living wage, which is the salary they're fighting for. Then we have living condition. The living condition is about, you know, I keep giving examples of companies like Delta State Company, Alaja, like the Petroleum Training Institute, Warri, Nigeria Sugar Company, Bashita, and a lot of the companies those days that were owned by the government, by the federal government. They provided housing for the staff. They provided transportation. Most the companies had staff school. They had staff for hospital. All those things were so that when this man received his salary, it was based on maybe little things. His school, the school of his children have been taken care of. In fact, sometimes electricity bill has been taken care of. Granted that it may not be sustainable, that model may not be sustainable in this present economy. But we now say, okay, now we have the pension scheme. Who is contributing to the pension scheme? How is the private sector contributing to the pension scheme, for example? We even have that there are, rumors of government trying to, tamper with the pension scheme, trying to say they want to use it for one or two things. The Buhari government, we heard that rumor. In this government, we are hearing that rumor. They should not tamper with that because that will make the civil servant lose all hope or, trust in the government. Then the issue of housing, the housing, because of the, hyperinflation, even the civil servants that try to buy houses, especially off-plan, it's not there. Because the government is supposed to be the one leading. The Federal Ministry of Housing is supposed to be providing mass housing so that the people can afford it. The civil servants can afford it through their NHF funding. And a lot of private people are not doing their own contribution towards that. So the NHF has to be strengthened. The pension is working better than the housing fund. The government needs to look into that to make sure it's strengthened. Then transportation. Those days, there used to be staff bus and all those things, conveying workers to work. I think that should be, reinitiated because we need to have a way to cut costs from the civil servants and even generally workers. What are the costs of transportation for their school? We are talking about federal government is talking about increasing the school fees of school. I'm telling you, even in any capitalist economy like the United States or whatever we are trying to look at, and even the European Union and the rest, there are subsidies. You have to subsidize the living condition of your citizens. It is done everywhere. You have to subsidize. UK heavily subsidizing education for UK citizens by using creative means, by making foreign students pay 4 times as much as what they pay. These are the ideas. The government should think out of the box and make sure you cannot remove all subsidies from the life of your citizens. You are not running a company. You are running a public service, and that is what it's supposed to be. So let's reintroduce the subsidy for petroleum so that the price of things can come down. It is not the salary that will increase the price of things. It's the premium you have put on petroleum, for example. Why can't you buy fuel for 165 naira? Things will come down. Well, so let's stop pointing finger where it's not. Let's look at things where we're supposed to look at them.
Thank you so much for speaking to us on this. We appreciate, all your take.
Thank you for having me on the show.